things. Are those players, are the IBMs of the world going to be big players in this, or does it take the new entrants? Is this like a are we at the start of something where there's new players that arise?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I think a lot of the financial services industry participants in the back to 2014, 2015, they've learned enough to see that they don't want to be disintermediated with this next new generation technology that people really believe is going to change decades-old ways that business have been of doing transactions and handling business. So I think people have sort of leaned in and tried to be more forward-looking. Just IBM specifically, I think we made a lot of great choices. One was, instead of building something proprietary, building in the open. So donating the code, setting up the Hyperledger with the Linux Foundation, and really trying to build a community. I know on the Ethereum side, there's a tremendous ecosystem. Gardner and other analysts have said around Ethereum, it's about 10x of the amount of developers in that community versus others. But in the enterprise space right now, there's basically the big three, which is Ethereum, Hyperledger Fabric, and I'd say Corda's more of a distant third there. But I think the enterprises that do this more of an open source approach, very cloud-based, as Gert said, on-premise sort of the software model is not going to get you the iteration and speed you need. And then you do get much better sort of security and the global scale with cloud deployments. And as you said, Mark Benioff sort of opened the door for that in enterprises. I think it might have been easier for them to think about that for more of like commerce and web type applications or CRMs. Now enterprises are really thinking about transforming their mission critical systems that are, EDI for supply chain payment rails built 30, 40 years ago that just can't meet the demands, what they need for the business today. And as your point, leapfrogging to blockchain is that new technology.
So, speaking of standards and platforms, I wonder if, Sophia, you could talk a bit about what people are doing on your platform, on your network when it comes to trade finance, or where we talked about pain points earlier, like where's the lowest hanging fruit? What are people doing there that hints at a blockchain future?
Yeah. Well, I think from a blockchain perspective, as people are looking at the use cases and they have a pain point, they think maybe blockchain could help. There's really 3 areas of challenges they'd run into, and we were really looking to help address all of them. So the first, at the POC stage, blockchain is a really new technology, so getting your arms around it. So distributed P2P networks, heavy crypto, heavily Dockerized, new programming languages and frameworks. So a lot of, I think in the early, Manu said, people started 2014, 15, 16. That's where they started. They had maybe the CEO saying, go do something here. And you have the tech team doesn't really have skills in these areas, trying to furiously learn, examining different protocol options and trying to get up to speed and experiment. And oftentimes really just getting stuck at that layer. Sometimes spending months to years, millions of dollars, thousands of lines of code, and radically scaling back the business impact they wanted to achieve because they just had so many problems with the technology layer. And then the next phase is really going to, sorry. Thank you. Thanks. When you're going from a POC, maybe internally with your own team, the next phase is going to a pilot. So now you might have real data. You have 5 or 6 participants that may be friends. They may be competitors, but you're saying we need to do this together. But you have the real data there, and clients, these different stakeholders realize, for the first time we're doing something that, we Kaleido called shared IT. So, in the past, you might have 1,000 applications running in your data center, and your IT team thinks, well, this new blockchain one is 1,001. Number 1,001, and we're going to stand it up. But it's completely different on a blockchain because you have one copy of the application logic that's spread across all of these members, and you're running that together across everyone's IT properties, which may be on the cloud or on-prem. You have one copy of the data, which is the ledger. So something as simple as onboarding a new member, like, who decides? What's the governance around that? The policies. Do we think there's a smart contract now that's running with the application logic? How do we know it's a smart contract we think it is? That's because now it's all digital. It's not paper-based anymore. How can we verify all the change management around that? So, and then there's the political side of it, which Salema could talk about. I think they have a really great structure with how they approach things, but no one wants to join someone else's network. So you have a dominant player in the industry, and I know there was prominent news about this with Maersk in the fall. Competitors don't want to join something that someone else is leading. They want to come to the table as equals. So you need to think about the governance structure there. So basically, from a technology perspective, though, pilots, the tools and workflow just hadn't been built yet. So, we wanted to address that problem. And then pushing into production, you're really marrying all the new problems of blockchain with traditional challenges in enterprise space, so integrating back to your systems and sources data, scalability, reliability, performance, all of that, and then trying to do this in a way that's more native to the investments you have already in terms of skill sets on your application developers, how they work, and then just integrating, for example, the organizational identity tying to an Ethereum account back to your LDAP system that you've spent millions of dollars. So that way, if someone leaves a network, you can just press a button and they're removed from all the systems instantaneously from like a security perspective. So those I'd say are the three layers of challenges. Seeing, Komgo, how quickly they've been able to move from the POCs to pilots to production, I think is a reflection of how much the platform has matured so that businesses can really iterate quickly, find that right pain point and use case for blockchain, and then work on the people and the relationship side and building the right network on top of the technology, moving extremely quickly.
Yeah. You mentioned governance there, and I want to talk about that in terms of the ownership of this data, and the kind of suspicion that you have of the big players. And Manu, we were talking earlier about that. I mean, the biggest companies in the world now are based on hoovering up data and jealously guarding it and monetizing it. This is a very radically different way of thinking. How is this?
Similar along the lines of Gert, I spent about 7 years living in third world countries. One of the things Kaleido's working with are use cases around financial inclusion and developing markets. So I'm really excited with trade finance that, in a very opaque nature today, there's a lot of cost associated because of the risk, and there are a lot of people who can't participate and won't get the credit. So just the small and medium and very small businesses in these developing markets really can get plugged into the global economy.
Great.
In a more frictionless and cost-effective way.
The source of the business.
Fascinating.
Jason, I realized I never introduced myself. I just
okay.
answered your question right away. Just so quickly,
Sure.
I'm a founder of Kaleido, which is a blockchain business cloud platform. Previously, I was at IBM. I led the IBM blockchain platform business and worked with hundreds of clients, saw them running into the same problems, built various generations there, and then saw there was a big gap in the market. People really wanted a platform on enterprise Ethereum. So built multi-protocol, multi-consensus mechanism, multi-deployment option choice, a platform there. And really the goal is to radically simplify the adoption